Good evening. Today is the feast of Saint Dan. The theme of today's talk is ability to accept suffering and love with an unselfish love. This talk has two parts. Part 1, ability to accept suffering. Part 2, ability to love with an unselfish love. I begin with part 1, ability to accept suffering. Suffering is an unavoidable aspect of our life. Buddhism expresses this reality by saying that everything is sorrow. Francis Thompson says, "Nothing begins and nothing ends that is not paid with a cry, because we are born in another's pain and perish in our own." Religions like Buddhism and Hinduism propose ways to escape from suffering. But Christianity teaches that suffering must be integrated into one's life. If anyone wants to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. 1. Types of suffering. We can speak of 3 types of suffering. Sufferings that are naturally part of our life. Pain caused by toothache or stomachache. Sufferings that are willingly undertaken. Practices of asceticism, mortification or fasting. Undeserved suffering caused by the deviant behavior of some dear one, or innocent suffering. In order to integrate these sufferings into our lives, we must try to grasp the meaning of these sufferings or the use that these sufferings can have for us. The Christian attitude to suffering is rather paradoxical. On the one hand, we see Jesus removing suffering from the lives of people by healing them. On the other hand, we see Jesus voluntarily embracing suffering, and we believe that we are saved through the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. 2. Meaning of suffering. Together with you, I would like to reflect on how we can find meaning for the 3 types of suffering that I had mentioned earlier. 2.1. Sufferings that are naturally part of our life. Example, pain. Pain is a suffering. Often pain acts as a warning system that tells us that something is going wrong with our system. For example, a toothache informs us that there is something going wrong with our tooth and it needs to be attended to if we want to not lose our tooth. The pain of getting burned if we put our finger into the fire informs us that our finger is in the wrong place, that we need to do something about it if we do not want to lose it. Dr. Paul Brandt, a physician who has spent his life among lepers, exclaims, "Thank God for inventing pain. I don't think he could have done a better job." 2.2. Sufferings that are willingly undertaken. Example, practice of asceticism, mortification and fasting. There is a misunderstanding with regard to the purpose of asceticism, mortification or fasting. Some people say that God is happy when we experience suffering in the process of practicing asceticism or when we do mortification or fasting. Suffering does not please God. In the Old Testament, we see Yahweh constantly liberating those who are suffering and oppressed. In the New Testament, much of the public life of Jesus was spent removing the sufferings of people, both spiritual and physical. If asceticism is not to please God, what is its purpose? Asceticism or mortification or fasting strengthens the will to meet the challenges involved in being a committed follower of Jesus. Here, what pleases God is not the practice of asceticism, but the fact of our living good Christian lives. 2.3. Undeserved suffering. Example, someone who contracts a serious illness. I would like to mention some of the ways in which we can understand the meaning of this type of undeserved suffering. Suffering helps us to surrender. Our own suffering or the suffering of those who are close to us make us become aware of our utter helplessness. In our helplessness, we turn to God and learn to put our trust in God. From our experience, all of us know that we learn to surrender to God when we suffered. It is difficult to find meaning in suffering in general. Each one has to find the meaning in suffering by himself or herself. In 2008, I suffered from a special type of fever. I was in the hospital for 10 days. It took another 2 weeks for me to recover from it. During those days, all what I wanted to do was to sleep, 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 and nothing else. I did not want to eat. I did not want to meet anyone. I did not want to receive phone calls. I thought I was going to die. I felt utter helplessness. That fever helped me to start giving importance to essentials in life. It helped me to start giving importance to the values of mercy, compassion, and kindness. Suffering can make us feel one with those who suffer. I shall give an example. If a person has experienced headache, that person will feel closer to the one who experiences headache and will try his or her best to alleviate his or her suffering. Personally, I have experienced strong headaches. So when a student tells me that he is having headache, I will be able to put myself in his shoes and tell him to go and take rest. I have not experienced toothache. So when a student tells me that he is having toothache, I may tell him all the same to attend the class. 2.4. My suffering can have a negative or positive effect on others. If I suffer unwillingly, grudgingly, I may be giving scandal to others. For example, when a holy priest was struck by paralysis, he nearly lost his faith. The people who knew him to be a holy priest were surprised to hear him cursing God for the suffering. If I suffer without cursing God, if I suffer reaffirming my faith and trust in God, if I suffer entrusting myself totally into the hands of God, it can have a positive effect not only on me but also on others. Looking at me, others may be strengthened in their suffering. Example, Father P.T. Thomas. In 2003, Father P.T. Thomas underwent operation of his stomach. Since he insisted to know about his sickness, he was told that he was suffering from second stage of cancer. For a month he was worried. After that, till his death, he was a cheerful person. He continued his pastoral ministry inside and outside KJC as before. Just before his death, he revised all the 3 volumes of Pastoral Guide. He never complained about his sickness. He died in February 2005. Last 2 months of his life, he spent in a center which takes care of terminally ill patients. One night, I had gone to stay with him in that center to look after him. The following morning, he told me, Father Anton, I am sorry. I disturbed you last night 2 or 3 times since I had to go to the restroom. I felt so humbled. I had gone to look after him and he was asking pardon for disturbing my sleep at night. This is Father P.T. All of us are inspired by the way Father P.T. Thomas accepted his illness. Another example, Sister Mercy FMA. She was economist of FMA Bangalore province. She was suffering from cancer. Few days before her death, some of us had gone to Avalahalli to visit Sister Mercy. Father M.J. Matthew, who had known Sister Mercy for many years, asked her, How are you, Sister Mercy? She replied, For the past 58 years, God had kept me as the apple of His eye. I have not experienced headache or toothache. I have never gone to a hospital for my illness. Now let God do what He thinks as best for me. She died few days later. Part 2 of this talk is ability to love with an unselfish love. We can enjoy loving others if our love is unselfish. Our love is selfish if we expect love or gratitude in return from those whom we love. Very often we see people who suffer because they do not get love or gratitude in return. For example, a certain religious superior was so angry when the candidates did not thank her after the picnic that she did not talk with them for 2 days. Jesus did not expect love in return. He is asking us not to expect love or appreciation or praise or gratitude from others. In the Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 8 verse 4, Jesus tells a leper whom He healed not to tell others that He is the one who has healed him. If we were in the place of Jesus, probably we would have expected the leper to tell others that we are the ones who healed him so that others may praise or appreciate us. In Luke chapter 6 verse 35 we read, Love your enemies, do good and lend expecting nothing in return. Again we read, when you give a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors in case they may invite you in return and you would be repaid. Beard Griffiths has said, it is a pity that we do so much good with selfish motives. Pope John XXIII had his motto, give all but without expectation. Yes, it is difficult to carry on helping others, loving others without expecting help or love in return, but it is not impossible. I shall give some examples of people who loved others with an unselfish love. Saints Bishop Versilia and Father Caravaggio were Italian Salesians. They were missionaries in China. On 25th of February 1930, they were going by boat to a village parish. 3 women catechism teachers were accompanying them. At a certain moment, they were attacked by some robbers. When these men tried to misbehave or violate these catechism teachers, both the Salesians tried to protect the teachers from being violated. As a result, the robbers shot dead both the Salesians. On 15th May 2001, 3 militants came to our novitiate in Imphal and asked Father Raphael Palikar SDB, the novice master, to reveal to them the identity of 27 novices. The gunmen wanted to kill the novices belonging to a certain tribe. Father Raphael refused to do so. They pumped bullets into his body. Father Kinto went to save Father Raphael and he too was killed. Brother Shino tried to save Father Shinto. He too was killed. All the 3 gave up their life to protect the life of novices. If they had revealed the identity of the novices, the militants would not have killed these Salesians. Father Davis Chiramal gave one of his kidneys to a Hindu man within his parish territory in Vadanapalli, Thrissur, Kerala. When I met Father Davis, I asked him how he was able to donate his kidney. He said that Hindu man needed a kidney and did not have money to buy a kidney. I could not help him with money for the kidney, so I gave him one of my kidneys. Mr. Paul, the younger brother of my sister-in-law, was in need of a kidney in 1997. He was 24 years old. His youngest sister, Beena, was 22 years old. When Beena realized that her kidney will be of use to her brother, she discussed with her husband, Mr. Joy, about giving one of her kidneys to Paul, her brother. Beena and her husband prayed for 5 minutes and both came to the conclusion that Beena could give the kidney to Paul. Paul lived till 2018 because of this kidney given by Beena. In 2018, the kidney of Paul failed. Paul needed another kidney. This time, Mr. Joy, the husband of Beena, gave his kidney. I asked Beena how she was able to give her kidney to Paul, and she replied, I love my brother so much. If we can find joy in loving others, in helping others, in sacrificing our time for them, then we will be able to love them and help them without expecting anything in return. When we love others, help others without expecting anything in return, we enjoy the interior happiness. Then we can say our love for others is unselfish, our help for others is for their own well-being and not for our satisfaction. Today, all of us should ask ourselves, so far in my life, have I loved anyone with an unselfish love? It means, have I loved anyone for his or her own good? Through the intercession of Saint Anne, we shall ask Jesus for the grace to accept sufferings, sickness, negativities in our life without losing hope and to surrender ourselves into the hands of God, to love others for their own good with an unselfish love.